Hello, I'm Ronnie Eldridge. Welcome to Eldridge and Company. One of the best books to read if you want to better understand the current crisis in America is Runaway Inequality, an activist guide to economic justice. It explains how economic inequality developed, what it's doing to us, to our families, and to the country. It's just been revised and reissued, and its author, Leopold, the executive director of the Labor Institute, is my guest today. Welcome. So, hello.
Hello.
It's been a while since we've talked. It's interesting.
Thanks for having me back.
You're welcome. So I assume you were very active in the Bernie Sanders campaign?
That's correct.
In my
own way.
In your own way. But he really had your message.
Well, it was interesting. I started writing this book before I had any idea that Sanders was going to run.
Right.
And lo and behold, it looks like he took the entire platform, stole it from me, like
exactly.
Point by point by point. Although I don't think he actually read the book.
So
sure. It was kind of in the air. This was the direction to go in.
So we've come out of this election. Everybody's appalled, right? My friends, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? I have the feeling you think there's an opportunity in this for us to really change and understand more basically why Trump got elected and what people who don't want Trump and who are not Republicans should do.
Absolutely.
That's a convoluted question,
well,
but you got it.
I think we have to understand first of all, what's going on in the country. There's a revolt underway against neoliberalism, the system of tax cuts, deregulation, trade deals.
It came from Reagan? Sort of.
Reagan, Thatcher, but it was in the basically the late 70s, even Carter and Ted Kennedy a little bit were starting to go.
I was going to say, that's not only a Republican
view.
No,
No, by no means.
Right.
So that system produced, and it was supposed to make all boats rise, but it produced an enormous amount of inequality. The gap between the top CEOs and the average workers went from 45 to 1 in 1980 to 844 to 1. 844 to 1.
So for every dollar a worker earned, the CEO of that company
earned 844. Now imagine this. If you could afford one home, they could afford 844 homes. One car, 844 cars. It's obscene, right?
Yeah.
So after the crash, sort of the eyes of the American people start to open up, saying, whoa, this is wrong.
This is in
2007, 2008. And you had left and right kind of responses. Occupy Wall Street, the Tea Party. And then you get Bernie Sanders, Donald Trump. And it's, however you view it, the people who supported them were rejecting the established order.
Excuse me.
So the word of caution I have for all of us who are upset with Trump is we can't just be anti-Trump, because that puts us in defense of the neoliberal status quo. We have to have a proactive, positive agenda and an organization to back it. And I think that's actually doable. My old mentor, Tony Mazzocchi, who you knew well, is also, he said for years, he says, when things go wrong in this country, working people are going to go right or they're going to go left. If we don't have a progressive organization for them to become part of, they're going to go the other way. And I think we saw some of that happening in this election. So we have to build something new.
And especially the deregulation of all of Wall Street and all of that helped us accumulate. I mean, that you talk about that well in here.
The great fiction was the economists would say, let's deregulate everything and make the economy more efficient. And they were talking about communications like the Ma Bell, break up Ma Bell, airlines, deregulate them, trucking. That's what they were talking about. But they also ended up deregulating Wall Street. And when they did that, all hell broke loose. And that's another long story. But I think our focus as progressive people who want to build a more just society, we have to look towards building an organization that can take advantage of some of the openings that Trump has actually created. I'm taking a lot of heat for this, but look at the carrier plant offshoring. No Democrat or Republican ever dared to say anything in the last 20 years about moving to Mexico or Southeast Asia or whatever. They just said, well, that's just the way the economy works and we shouldn't interfere with trade and so on. Trump actually said he would intervene. He did intervene in two places. Carrier, I think successfully for 800 of the 1,100 jobs. And now Rexnord down the road, there's 300 jobs, hasn't done anything there. But it opens up an opportunity for us to build a national movement of the people who are seeing their jobs offshored. And I've been trying to get the attention of the AFL-CIO and other top leaders to say, look, identify who those people are. There's tens of thousands of them, and bring them to Washington in a constant vigil. In your face, Donald Trump, wherever he goes. What about us? What about us? What about our jobs? Force him to make this not just a PR stunt, but to make it real policy. Bernie Sanders actually has legislation on this that could be pushed forward. But force Trump to actually address this nationwide.
But to start regulating.
Well, to start, yeah. I mean,
you really have this wonderful explanation here about why corporations are moving, why they need to have cheaper labor. Isn't that basically what it is?
Well, the untold story, here's the context for this. We're doing these education programs all across the country where basically the book and a curriculum based on it is the organizing principle of it. We're training workers to actually be trainers, and it's really quite amazing and quite successful in getting the word out. But the mind-blowing thing is this little feature called stock buybacks, which was regulated before 1982. It was illegal. A corporation was not allowed to go into the marketplace and buy back its own shares. Why? Because obviously when you do that, you manipulate the price of the shares. It was considered stock manipulation because when you buy it back, you reduce the number of shares and the price goes up. And you go into the marketplace and you're bidding up the price of the shares. And they thought this was one of the reasons for the 1929 crash, was stock manipulation. Reagan appointed the head of E.F. Hutton to be chairman of the Security Exchange Commission, and he thought he had drank this neoliberal Kool-Aid. He said, oh, we don't need to have regulations. Let corporations do what they want with their money. They'll find the best use for it. In 1982, before there was this stock buyback permitted, you could do a little bit of it, and 2% of all corporate profits went to stock buybacks. By 2007, 75% of all corporate profits went to stock buybacks. So here, and now here's the other amazing thing. In 1980, 95% of a CEO's pay were salary and bonuses, and 5% were stock incentives. Now, 95% of a CEO's pay is stock incentives. So you're a CEO, you go to work. Your pay is entirely derived from the value of the stock. What do? You try to get all the money you can out of the corporation and you go into the marketplace and buy back the company's own stock. These are called stock buybacks. So I was doing this, show you how this is all connected. So I'm doing a presentation to the board of directors of the steelworkers. They're on the 12th floor of this building in Pittsburgh. I'm there for some of the meeting and I'm hearing what they're talking about. And they're talking about Carrier. They represent the Carrier workers in Indianapolis who are losing their jobs, and now Trump is intervening. And they're trying to work out a severance agreement. They're negotiating on the 9th floor with Carrier. So I quickly on the computer look up Carrier. Who owns Carrier? Oh, United Technologies. And what do we find out about United Technologies? 6 months before, they did a they announced a $10 billion stock buyback plan. So the $60 million that they're going to save by moving the Carrier plant, its most profitable division is Carrier. They're going to move it to Mexico where the wages are $6 a day, not $25 an hour.
So that's how they make up their...
And that's how they're going to finance the stock buyback.
But isn't that also similar to what Romney's company did, is that you buy a floundering company? I don't know. What I can think of is Fairway. Fairway in New York. Everybody knows Fairway, right? It was a nice small neighborhood company. It began to expand. It sold it. It went public. They expanded more. and then they went broke or they went bankrupt. I don't know. I think they must have taken money out when they went public.
Now,
Is that what happens?
Well, there are several ways in which we call it financial strip mining.
Right, that's the other.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the goal of Wall Street and the top CEOs is how do you get the money out of the corporation and into your own pocket?
Yeah.
So Bain Capital, Romney's company, is famous for special dividends. So as soon as they buy a company with borrowed money, by the way, as little of their own money as possible, then they take some of the borrowed money and they give themselves a special dividend, put it right in their pocket, and they're ahead. At closing, they're ahead.
Yeah. But then they need to find.
Well, they don't really. It doesn't really matter what happens 4 or 5 years down the road. The idea is to get the money out and for you to get out as soon as possible. But the net result is that we're all being financially strip mined. Not only are the corporations being kind of hollowed out and then pushed offshore to create even more money, and wages and pensions and all that being pressed down, but you have this neoliberal ideology actually creates some very pernicious thoughts in our heads. It's not just an economic system. It actually changes the social dynamics of what we think is normal. So when you and I grew up, it was not normal to have student debt. Mm-hmm. If you were in New York or California, it was free. Mm-hmm. If you were in a state school, a summer job could pay your tuition. Right? I went to an expensive private school. My debt was $60 a month for 10 years.
Exactly.
Now it's hundreds of thousands of dollars. We think student debt is normal. Well, it's a $1.2 trillion industry. So students and their families are being strip mined by Wall Street. We think that's normal as opposed to being abnormal. Another thing we think is normal. We think it's normal to have the biggest prison population in the entire world, as a percentage and as an absolute number, more than China, more than Russia. If you look at the chart of runaway inequality from 1980, it goes like this. If you look at the prison population, it mirrors it. Exactly the same. It was very low, and then it's now over 2 million.
Real estate prices? Must.
There's some of that too.
Thing,
but let me deal with the prison, because I think again it takes us back in a way to when you were kind of at the peak of political power. What was going on in the 60s and early 70s is there was a consensus in this country that poverty was a bad thing, right? And in a way, the best minds in the country were working on how to deal with it, both white, rural poverty, Appalachia, and inner city poverty, all kinds of poverty. We had a war on poverty, we had all this kind of stuff. When neoliberalism came in, it basically said, no more, no mas, we don't do this anymore. But you know what? We still had a lot of poor people. And we developed a warehousing system. I mean, one of my son's professors says, Americans are very entrepreneurial. And if there's a market, they'll develop a business to deal with it. Well, the drug business.
Prison business.
Yeah, the prisons business, but also the drug business.
Yeah.
But anyway, a lot of people got caught up in the net of, instead of providing sustainable jobs for people, we've warehoused them in prisons. And so we're being strip mined again and again in all these different directions. And the most subtle one of all is this process you said about before 1980, basically. It was frowned upon to buy up big corporations with borrowed money. After deregulation, this was normal. Almost every company in the country has gone through what's called a leverage buyout. And there was almost no corporate debt until 1980, and it's shot through the ceiling. It's like $7 trillion right now. And the interesting thing about debt, of course, is the interest payments are not taxable. So the corporate tax rate to state and local government especially has gone down, has fallen in half. And we know
Trump wants to make it even more, right?
Of course. And states are competing against each other, providing more and more tax breaks, right, for companies to stay here or move from there to here. Even hedge funds of all groups that are making billions of dollars in Connecticut are getting 20, 30, 40 million dollars in tax breaks, so they don't leave Connecticut and go to New Jersey or something like that. Okay. Wealthy people Also don't pay taxes, because once you get the money into your pocket, you move it offshore if you're really wealthy. You find ways to hide your wealth. So the combination has created this incredible puzzle. The richest country in the history of the world can't afford its public sector. Why? Wealthy people aren't paying, and corporations aren't paying. If you look at state and local government taxes across the country, add up all the state and local taxes, it's perfectly regressive. The poorer you are, the more you pay. So as a result, middle income people, lower income people, they don't want to pay more taxes. So they're always saying no more, no more, no more. The wealthy people are paying the smallest percentage, and corporations are paying even a smaller percentage. And we have a constant fiscal crisis. So we get screwed again. So the average person sees their schools decline, sees their public services decline. They see government can't do anything. And meanwhile, all the money, it's a different world, is going to the top fraction of the top 1%. Their services are fantastic. Their schools are fantastic. The airports they use are wonderful. The roads that if they drive, their chauffeurs, no problem.
They fly their own planes.
They fly their own planes. They take their helicopter out to the Hamptons.
So now why didn't Trump, who flies his own plane, who lives in this golden palace, who tells everybody how many billions of dollars he has or whatever, doesn't show his taxes, we haven't got the faintest idea. Why does he attract that rural worker or the union members who voted Republican?
Because, first of all, they are furious at the established order. They're the ones that are losing the jobs. Their kids can't find any work. Their standard,
they're tired of political rhetoric. I mean, I'm tired of political rhetoric. I don't want to hear it anymore.
Look, they've seen very little change that's been good for them. Whereas before that 1980 period, there actually was a rising standard of living for all working people, not just white working people. All working people were seeing their standard of living rise. So they're upset. They're looking for somebody to come in with change.
And if he did it for himself, and he says he's going to do it for them,
that was a convincing line to say, look, I am so wealthy that I didn't have to beg for money to get. I don't have to go to Wall Street donors to support me. I can pay my own way.
Yeah, but
I did this all for myself. Now I'm going to do it for you.
Right, but we don't know how much he does. Obviously, he does.
It doesn't matter.
Right.
My message is we cannot build a movement by defining ourselves by Trump, because otherwise we're just supporting the status quo.
Now, how do we? This is you say neoliberal. I consider myself a liberal, but I'm classified in a case like a progressive. I don't like that term. I don't know why, but I don't like it. Bernie Sanders runs. He attracts all the young people and a lot of other people. His message was very similar, in a funny way, different totally, but let's change the world. He's considered a socialist, a dangerous thing in American politics, right?
Once upon a time.
How do we get, yes, we're all socialists, it seems to me, or liberal Democrats. How do we get out of these classifications? I mean, what is an old FDR kind of person who believes in the role of government and believes that people shouldn't be poor and that they should have all the different things that we think they should have? What do you call them today?
I mean, I use the term progressive, but they're really social democrats. We're basically going back.
So maybe we should change our name.
I mean, yeah, maybe that would be good. When we do these educational programs around the country, at the end of which there's two takeaways that the education leads to that are absolutely incontestable, I think, uncontestable. One, runaway inequality will not cure itself. This idea that there's a pendulum that swings back and forth, the economy's going to get, labor market will get tighter and then wages will go up and we're almost there now, right? You read the paper, pretty soon now, and then it's going to swing back towards more equality. Not going to happen. It will not fix itself. It's in a one-way direction.
Well, it doesn't take much sense to know it's not going to happen because we're going back to the old policies even more.
Right. So it's not going in that direction.
Right.
So that leads to a second conclusion, which is the only way to change it is to build a mass popular movement. And like the one that was built in the 1880s, the American populist movement, which was the first movement in this country that was directed against Wall Street. There was no Federal Reserve. Wall Street controlled the money supply. And the farmers were, especially, it was small black and white farmers in the Midwest and the South were getting totally screwed. And they mobilized. But the key was how they mobilized. they mobilized, matter of fact, their organization was falling apart, and they sent out educators, 6,000 of them, across the country. We would need 30,000 today to match the population. 6,000 that went out and told the story about how Wall Street was screwing them and put forth their plan, which was public banks, progressive income tax, and they wanted public ownership of means of communication and transportation, which is what they relied on, and cooperatives for warehouses, grain elevators, that kind of stuff, stockyards. Very, very successful. So when we go out, we say there's 4 things that have to happen for us to be successful going forward. One, we need a common analysis and a common agenda. And I think we're very close to that. I think Bernie field tested a common agenda that was wildly popular of all races, people under 30, all ethnic groups under 30, really bought into his program. Sort of the older you got, the more people thought, well, I'm not so sure about that. But I think that agenda is...
you use the word silos. You want everybody to get out of their silos.
Well, right? I'm going to get that. Okay.
All right, I'm sorry.
No, hey,
I can't help it.
That's okay. Well, I'm going too slowly. So that was number 1. Number 2.
Yeah, we have less than 5 minutes.
Okay, you need a common organization. I want to go to Pensacola, Patterson, or Pasadena, and I want to be able to walk into a meeting where we're all working on runaway inequality. We're all trying to stop it. And that's where we get out of our silos, which I'm not saying we get rid of our identity politics groups or our labor groups or our environmental groups, but we need something above that where we can identify as fighting a common fight like the populists had. Then the third thing is we need we need an educational infrastructure, which I'm actually working on. That's my pay grade. I can't build a common organization. Others who represent tens of thousands of people have to get together and do that. But we are actually training trainers all over the country to do that, and that's working out very well. We have a big program nationally with the Communication Workers of America. We have one starting now in New Jersey with the New Jersey Education Association. We have other pilots going on in California, hopefully in the state of Washington soon. It's spreading. The last one, though, this is the toughest one, Ronnie. The last one is here, our heads. We got to believe that we can do this. We've been so beaten down by neoliberalism about Trump's election and everything else that we actually think that the best thing to do is hunker in our silo and fight back, that we can't actually build something new. And my message to everybody is, we lost. We're losing. We have to build something new.
We're losing all over the world, it seems.
We have to build something new. And I think the American people are ready for it. The very same workers that everyone said, abandon the Democrats and vote for Trump, I think a lot of them just didn't vote, but whatever. Those people are the people we're talking to in these programs, and they are hungry for something new. They're not jumping up and down waving Trump signs. They're hungry for something new. They're waiting for their leaders to actually build something that they can believe in.
So you remember when it got to be terrible, you couldn't call yourself a liberal? Then you got to be the neoliberal. And now even populism is getting a bad rap.
Well, because it's identified as a very good point. It's now, because it's swung to the right, it's now, elites have always feared populism, all the way back to Hamilton, right? The whole United States, you ever wonder why the rest of the world has not adopted our political our governmental structures? They all have parliamentary systems because ours is so fractured. It was to prevent a possible popular uprising against property interests, and property interests at that point were also included all the slave owners, right? So it was an idea to kind of protect the status quo. Anyway, populism doesn't have to be a bad name. Bernie was progressive populism, and that obviously was tremendously hopeful for the American people. We just need to build on it. We can't just rely on political institutions. I wish that Bernie would go to his mailing list that produced $200 million. If a quarter of that would sign up for this new organization, you'd have a $50 million organization that would change this country.
And you need also to go to parts of the Democratic Party. I mean, I think
they'll come in.
The local clubs,
they'll come
the
in.
Local organizations, they should be part of your.
Half of them were Bernie already.
Yeah.
They're hungry. They're ready to go. We just we can't be immobilized. We can't just define ourselves as anti-Trump, because that means status quo, that we're defending the status quo. We have to have a vision for the future, an agenda, a program, an organization, and things for people to do. and people are ready to do it. Actually, this is a good time to build something.
It's absolutely, out of the ashes comes, right?
I hope so.
Don't you always need a crisis to be able to
This is
change
a heck of a
something?
crisis.
And this is some crisis.
This is some
So
crisis.
if you read this book, if you follow you on Alternet and on Huffington Post, viewers will be able to keep up with what you're doing, right?
Yeah, I'd be
Now,
certainly welcome.
you don't have your own website, though.
There's a website for this book called Runaway Inequality.
Right, but it doesn't have your recent columns on these other things, so you have to go to these other places.
Yeah, I'll try to hook them all up at some point. We just don't have the manpower.
You're going to have to come back because we're now entering. We're not going to have president-elect. We're going to have president. We're going to have congressional hearings of the people in this cabinet who are what? Almost all millionaires?
Billionaires.
Billionaires.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Hey, look, I'm honored to be here with you.
I
come
love
back
having
anytime.
We have the greatest conversations. So we will come back.
Great.
And we will discuss it and we'll try to spread the word.
We will do that.
It's just such common sense. That's what it really is, isn't it?
It's the head. We just can't.
Yeah,
we can't
right.
hold ourselves back.
You're right. Thank you so much, Leslie Leopold.
Thank you.
I love it. We at CUNY TV always like to hear from our viewers. So if you have any subjects you'd like to explore or people you'd like to hear, please let us know. Write to us at CUNY TV, 365 Fifth Avenue, New York, New York, 10016, or go to our website, cuny.tv, and click on Contact Us. We look forward to hearing from you.